Hi, Emily Taylor here with Collage Quilter. This is the third video tutorial for the Harvest Quilt Along. If you are just joining me, finding me on YouTube, you'll want to maybe check out the previous videos where we're talking about making this Harvest collage quilt. You can also check out the Collage Quilt Along with Emily Facebook group. There are kind of some details there. So anyway, this is the tips and tricks video. So I want to address some of the questions that have been asked in the Facebook group and just kind of show you the direction that we're going and give you some of my tips, okay? So first of all, we've been working on the pepper and the tomato. We're moving into the eggplant and the radish, but I wanted to show you my second little tomato down here. Now I've got the tomato finished, it's still on the white background. The next thing you're going to want to do is cut that tomato away, just cut it right out of the white fabric, and then you'll put it on another background fabric. So what I've done is I've gone to adornit.com, sells some great little background fabrics for these. Thank you very much, Adornit. A little plug for them. And this is one of their fabrics. You can see I've done this, cut out the eggplant, put it on this beautiful background that I love, and I've just glued, used a minimal amount of glue on the edge of the eggplant or the vegetable that I'm applying to the fabric. And then I've also made sure that each of my veggies is the same square or the same size. So I think the size that I chose to make each vegetable background is like 18 inches across by 22 inches, something like that. You'll want to make sure that the background size that you choose is the same for each of the veggies that are going to be in the quilt. Now, if you're going to do individual quilts, then you don't need to worry about that. But if you're going to put them in either the quilt or the table runner, you're going to want to make sure that the background size is the same piece of fabric, same size. And the biggest vegetable that we're working with is the pumpkin. So the pumpkin can kind of be the basis for the size that we're using for the background. So you'll be gluing that on, and we're going to go into more detail with this on the next video, but I wanted to just get you thinking about that and give you a little, just show you what I've done. What we will be doing is creating the quilt sandwich. So we're going to be doing this is a quilt as you go project. So each vegetable will be quilted like this and ready to assemble. We're going to be using some strip piecing, so it's going to be really fun. But one of the tips that I wanted to show you was I happen to collect yarn and beautiful thread. So I had picked this up a while ago, and just only because I love it. It's this beautiful hand-dyed, I think it's silk yarn, and it's just, oh, yummy. I've always wanted to use it somehow. So that's how I used it here. You can see I just kind of added it, and then I did I guess a channel stitch. I've got to make sure. I'll show you the foot that I used, and I just did that right on top there. So this is what the background of the pepper looks like. Just ignore the little thread nest there. But you can kind of see this is how I quilted it. We'll talk more about the quilting. But anyway, if you have things like that, you might want to think about incorporating them into this project, and you can see how I'm going to be using the purple, this beautiful chunky yarn on the eggplant, and I've got some green that I'm going to be adding to the green. Anyway, I just want to have a lot of fun with finishing this up. So the next tip that I want to talk to you about is thinking about highlights and shadows on your veggies. So you'll notice that some of the veggies, like the tomato and the pepper, and the eggplant, they have specific areas where on the gray area, you'll see on the eggplant, this is the highlight, and then this is the dark area. So I've told you, create three value sets of fabric. So your mid-tones, your highlights, and your darks, and have 3 of those. And then because of the gray tone, it shows you right where to put those. Now, the radish is different, and I did this specifically to allow you to experiment yourself. So the radish is very flat. There are only, there's one gray or one value for the leaves and one value for the entire little vegetable, other than down here, the little root. So it's very flat. Although that's flat, I used my own artistic judgment and created a little bit more of a dimensional vegetable. And you can see I just chose to put my highlight over here and then a little bit of a dark over here. And sometimes with radishes or beets or whatever this vegetable is, it has kind of some white on the bottom of the vegetable, the coloring of the vegetable has some variation. It's variegated, I guess. So I did this so that you can have a little bit of fun with it or not. It's okay if you want it to be really stylized and just stick with one value. It'll turn out great. These are stylized vegetables and you can't mess up. They're foolproof. But if you want to be a little more artistic, this is the one to challenge yourself with. You choose where you want that highlight to be. And you can see that I've only just used really just kind of a smidgen. There's a really light pink there, and then a little smaller, whiter dot right on top of the pink. And then I went from red to really dark purple. I love the way that looked. And then again, underneath where it would attach with the leaves, a little bit of dark purple. There's something about kind of incorporating a little bit of color variation in these veggies that makes them really, really pretty. So I think that's what makes the radish really effective, is the color variation, pushing not only the value a little bit, but also the color a little bit, pushing it from red to purple and then red to pink. And in the leaves, I also want to point out in the leaves that, again, on the panel, it's a very flat look, and you can leave it that way. You can just choose a green that coordinates with that and stick with that, or you can have a little bit of fun by introducing your own values. So you can kind of see where I've done that to add a little bit of veining, or using some fussy cut leaves from other things. I've done some fussy cutting right there. I think, again, what makes the leaves look really interesting and fun is a variation between values and color in the green. So we've got some blue greens right next to some really yellow greens. So I think I've talked about that before, that there's some flexibility or some variation in the temperature of the greens, warm greens and cool greens, as well as lighter value greens next to darker value greens. So be very aware as you're creating. Leaves are especially fun to do this way, to just have a little bit of flexibility and push the boundaries a little bit. I think pushing the boundaries will create a more painterly, artistic looking vegetable, and it's just fun to see what happens when you do that. I've had such a great time seeing what everybody's vegetables look like on the Collage Quilt Along with Emily Facebook group. I hope you have too. It's been really, really fun to see all the interpretations of the tomato. I just want to, again, so because we're doing the radish now and the eggplant, again, I want to just point out one other kind of interesting tip, with the eggplant. So when we're talking about temperature, every single color can fall into a cool camp or a warm camp, even purple. So this is a really good example of where I've used warm and cool. So over here, you can see that purples are quite a bit more cool. In fact, there's a lot of blue. So the more cool a color gets, the more it leans towards the blue end of the spectrum, and you can see that in these blue pieces and in the purple in the eggplant over on this section. And then as I was heading over to the highlight, I chose to do more red purples. So I'm going the opposite end of the spectrum, more towards the reds and the oranges and kind of the more muddy, mauve-y looking purples. Those also became a little bit lighter in value. So I kind of gradually moved from dark to light until I got to the highlight. And I want to point out something that's really interesting. Using purples, a really great highlight color is actually light blue. And I don't think that you can see that here, but that's exactly what I've used here. So it's a really kind of a counterintuitive. As we're going from cool to warm, you would think I could do a warm highlight, which you certainly could, but there's just something about light blue makes a great highlight on greens and purples, and it was really effective here. So think about using, when you're highlighting greens or blues or purples, think about a really light blue. It just, I don't know, there's something about that. So, and then I just want to again point out, this is very flat on the gray tone. But when I was creating the leaves for this, I just had so much fun thinking, okay, I'm going to do the darker section here. I want these leaves to have a little bit of depth, and I want the stem to have a little bit of depth. So I personally decided, since this is the dark end of the vegetable, this is going to be the dark area of my leaves and my stems. So have fun with just playing with your fabric. That's the great thing about collage quilting, is it can be a really artistic exploration using color and temperature and value. I absolutely love it, and I hope that you are having so much fun, and I hope you're learning and enjoying this process. So if you have any questions, as always, you can find me at collagequilter.com. You can email me, emily@collagequilter.com. You can also find me in the Collage Quilter Facebook group, where we've got thousands of people who are sharing their work and sharing tips. And then for these specific projects, I'm providing lots of tutorials and lots of interaction, and it is specifically focused on learning these projects. And that Facebook group is the Collage Quilt Along with Emily Facebook group. Now, one more thing, this Harvest Veggie pattern had sold out, and it is now back in stock. So you can buy the pattern with the foundation panel that has everything pre-printed in gray tones. You can get that at collagequilter.com. So, Amelia, have I got everything? Okay, then I think we're good. And I will be having one more video, and then we'll do a live Q&A session at the end of September to answer any additional questions that you have. And then at that time, we're gonna jump into our holiday project. So we'll have a really fun holiday quilt along project. I hope you'll check it out. Again, great to have you here. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.